And you're looking at a live picture. This is at the APAC conference, and Ohio Governor John Kasich speaking at the moment. We're all waiting for Donald Trump, who will soon be taking the stage, and controversy and walkouts expected immediately thereafter. We will be taking you back there live coming up. Then the Senate is on recess, but that is not stopping Senate Republicans from continuing to push to block the president's Supreme Court nominee. We will tell. Well, we're going to try and figure out whether they're showing any signs of cracking. And also, the president's trip to Cuba. It is the first time a U.S. president has visited the island nation in 80 years. The question is, how was he received, and where does this go from here? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Here's RNC Chairman Reince Priebus talking about Donald Trump and the Donald saying that he ought to be the nominee even if he falls short of the magic delegate number.
It's simple. It's a yes or no question. Is it fair if he goes in without 1237 but with a plurality for the convention to deny him the nomination?
Well, plurality is a minority, and a minority doesn't choose for the majority. So you have to have a majority of the delegates in order to be the nominee. There's nothing magical about the number. It's 50% plus one. So no one's disenfranchised.
Okay, so a group of Republican leaders, they're upfront and transparent that they're going to do anything they possibly can to try and stop Donald Trump before he gets to that magic number, and they want to make life as difficult as possible. If you saw the Times this weekend, you know where I'm referring to. They're saying that this brain trust is preparing a 100-day campaign to deny the Donald. Quote, but should that effort falter, leading conservatives are prepared to field an independent candidate in the general election to defend Republican principles and offer traditional conservatives as an alternative to Donald Trump's hard-edged populism. But before it even comes to that, we will have the Wisconsin primary on April 5th. That's a key date here, and it's going to be expected to be the next major delegate-rich showdown that Trump and Cruz are expected, since they're expected to split Utah and Arizona, and they all vote tomorrow. So again, Wisconsin and its 42 winner-take-all delegates will be pivotal. The conservative group Club for Growth, they're promising to spend $2 million in that state alone. Right now, Trump holds a double-digit lead in Wisconsin. All right, I want to bring in the table right now to talk about all of this. Jeannie Zaino, our good friend, of course, Dominic Carter, Richard St. Paul, and Andrew Whitman. Guys, thank you all very much. And Richard, I start with you as an official member of the Republican Party and one in good standing. You're going to be in Cleveland, right?
I'm going to be, absolutely.
So like Andrew, you're going to have a front row seat.
I'm going to have my riot gear on, too.
Yeah, well, that's my point. You heard what those folks said. These aren't just talking heads that are just looking to try and make some noise. These are people with stick in the game. When you're in Cleveland, and Andrew will be there in full riot gear, do you expect we have an open convention? Do you expect that he'll have the magic number when he gets there? What's your thought that happens once we get to the RNC convention?
So right now he's leading by 250 delegates, Trump is. And Wisconsin is a winner-take-all, and then after that, there's only a few other states, but most of the other states are divvied up based upon who wins congressional districts. So it's quite possible that Trump does not get to that magic 1237. I'm going to say that he probably does not get to that 1237 before the convention. And when we get to the convention, you'll take a first vote, and if he doesn't get the majority then, you'll have a second vote, and then those voters can vote for anybody they want. And so that's really what I think the leadership in the Republican Party want, to either knock Trump out before the convention or get to the convention floor.
Okay, you were at APAC this morning. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. But obviously you were surrounded by other people like you that hold official titles here within the Republican Party. Even if the betting number is that he doesn't get to 1237, there's an open debate about that. The thinking is the field started with 17 people, right? It wasn't that he was like in the Democrats running around a couple people like Hillary did. He will have an overwhelming percentage, assuming he wins New York as he's expected to, California, Florida, the big states that are still out there, even if it's on a proportional level.
Right.
Can they really deny the guy the nomination if he doesn't make the magic number, but he's still so far ahead of the field?
Absolutely. I mean, this is something we haven't had to deal with in the Republican Party for a long time. But when you think about, does Trump espouse what the Republican Party stands for, I would say no. And I think that's what, the leadership that we're talking about in the New York Times, those are conservative leaders. Trump isn't seen as a conservative. People aren't voting for Trump because he's a conservative. They're voting because he's an outsider, because they're angry, because they think that he is going to be that person that is going to finally stand up for immigration reform, the economy, that quote, make America great again, that he's not a politician. That's why people are supporting Trump, not that the conservative credentials go out the door when it comes to Trump.
To that end, though, at what risk? Do you get the sense that the Republican Party, will burn this village to save it, in that they don't care if he gets to Cleveland and he doesn't have the magic number, but he's close enough to it? They don't care if they lose the general. They just don't want him at the top of the ticket.
I think you look at the Stop Trump movement and all the money they're going to spend, all the money they have spent already, and they have missed the window here. The window was when he took New Hampshire in the way that he did. They had to do it then or sooner. Now they've been pushing on this, and yet who are they standing behind? Nobody. You had Mitt Romney out there against Trump, but for nobody. You can't win an election pushing nobody. So they have nobody to push. They dislike Cruz. No, that was after his speech, weeks after his speech. He made a speech in which it was all anti-Trump and he wasn't going to endorse anybody. Now he's endorsed Cruz and says only for Utah and doesn't even want him to be president. Nobody likes Cruz. They like Cruz worse than they like Donald Trump. So they are in a horrible, horrible situation. And when you get to the convention, Richard is right. They can deny him this, but it is a PR disaster for them because you have people who have gone out in larger numbers than usual, cast their ballot, and they don't want to hear that the establishment swooped in and under rules denied them their candidate. And so it's going to be a problem.
I agree with everything that Jeannie said, but it gets a little bit more palatable if you get to Cleveland and Trump is clearly on a downswing. Whether he'll put foot in mouth again, whether he's going to lose Utah going away. He'll win Arizona probably if you believe the polls, but at Utah he's getting crushed by both of them. He's sitting far and away in third place. If he is trending really poorly as he gets to the convention, but still is clear of the other two, can they pull it off and still not turn off voters?
Under that scenario, Richard, if it plays out that way, then the party can pull the rug from under Trump. But I don't see that scenario realistically. If you just look at how he's doing, the professor is right. If you were going to do this, hey guys, look at how well he did in some of the early states. We better act right now. To sit back and go, we'll wait for him to implode. And poor Mitt Romney, think about this. You deliver a speech where your attack is scathing against Trump. It means absolutely nothing.
And people could have forecasted that even before he was done. But Andrew, of the two scenarios they're laying out, a brokered convention or running an independent candidate, and for those who follow the story, we're hearing names like
Governor Perry.
Yeah, Rick Perry. I mean, we saw that show.
And I can't remember the other one.
Yeah. No, it's the Oklahoma senator, right. A former senator.
No, I was making a Perry.
Right, yeah, thank you. But my point is, you take it, they're serious.
I'm not so sure. I mean, I think their intent, I think in their heart, they're serious about doing this, but let's not forget, this is a group that has failed to organize against Trump so far, that has basically not figured out a way to stop him from getting to 1237. Yes, I know that there are some winner-take-all states, but the states that also are congressional district states, Trump tends to do very well away from the large urban centers, and there's no reason to think that he's not going to get the majority, if not the overwhelming majority, of the delegates from those states. There's been no concerted effort really launched so far. You've got Kasich and Cruz sniping at each other instead of going after Donald Trump. So this is the gang that can't shoot straight, at least so far in this campaign, and we think they're really going to be able to organize either a cabal in Cleveland where they take it away from him and actually have an organized presence, or they can find somebody who's got enough name presence to run as a viable third-party candidate and actually, with the hopes of winning the White House. I don't think the GOP has this set yet. And the longer it goes, the worse off it is for their efforts to try to take him down.
To that point, there was two big narratives that seemingly were at play this weekend beyond the Trump line. One is the party's going to do whatever it can if they can find a way to keep this guy from being the nominee. But the other one is that there is a reckoning, either already or soon to come, that a lot of folks in the Republican Party created this monster that's Trump, and they don't know how to get him back in the cage. And it's not just that Trump is some outlier here. They fomented a lot of this anger, a lot of the stuff that we're starting to see at these rallies and at these speeches, et cetera. Is there a little bit of soul searching? You were there again earlier today where people are saying, my God, what do we do?
Yeah, so look, people are angry and upset. They're upset that Republicans were passing, allowing the debt ceiling to increase, that there has been, no movement in terms of immigration, the economy, weren't fighting back hard enough against Obama. Those were people in the Republican Party, the more conservative sector of the Republican Party that's very active here. So it wasn't that Trump was created. Trump found an opportunity. That's what he does. He finds opportunities.
But the voices of a lot of the Tea Party folks when they came in, but then you lie at the State of the Union, and then he ended up raising a ton of money after saying that. The Obama is not really an American, he's a Kenyan and he's a Muslim, and that was allowed to be permitted here. And all those voices that were given a platform and even encouraged in certain ways, right? Have the chickens come home to roost then, and when they look at Trump, they say, you know what, this is more on us than on anybody else?
No, look, there's certainly that anger has happened, and that's happened over 8 years, and that's been building up. Even with we've seen it. We've seen the Congress turn from Democratic hands to Republican hands. Now, that's just not Republicans are angry. That's people in the country who are upset about things not happening. So there's been a progression of people who are upset. It's not only Republicans, though, conservative Republicans who are saying, look, we're tired of the politicians. Yeah. We're tired of these standard bearers not getting things done. But what's really going to line up is who can Trump beat Hillary? Right now, the polling suggests that he cannot beat Hillary. So I think that's going to be a factor in it also.
And I think he may be the only candidate that can really motivate a lot of the people from getting out to vote for Hillary that might have, sat this one out a little bit. But Jeannie, for me, the big question is, Republicans seem willing to say, we don't even want to win with Trump, at least some of them. But what about those swing state senators right now, who, and we're going to get to it later on in the program, have to make the calculation as to whether or not there should be hearings, let alone a vote for the Supreme Court nominee. Or now that they have to answer a question in every general debate that they do you support Donald Trump? Are you with the Republican nominee? Are you going to condemn your own party here for where we are right now? They're going to have to make a choice sooner than later, right? I mean, I guess they wait till Cleveland, but after that, they got to decide, do I beg people not to look at the top of the ticket? Yeah,
and they have to worry that, as you mentioned, people are either going to stay home, that they need to go out and cast a vote for them, or people are going to get out to vote for the Democrats. And, that has long been the concern of the establishment. Not just about the presidency, but you lose those down ballot races where Republicans are doing amazingly well. They have the Senate, they have the House by overwhelming numbers. They have 3/4 of the state legislatures and the governorships. All of that is now up for grabs if they don't get their own people out to the polls, and that is a real fear that they have, rightly so, that especially suburban moderates stay home as opposed to go out for Donald Trump, and you incite, this kind of turnout for the Democrats.
And I saw a poll, Utah, if Trump's the nominee, it'd be the first time that Utah would vote Democrat in a presidential election since going back to Goldwater, Okay, coming up next here. We will be taking you live to AIPAC. Right now you're looking at House Speaker Paul Ryan at the conference in D.C. Donald Trump, he'll be taking the stage next, and we'll take you there live.